Swami Thakur Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Ramacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki.
Jai.
Prams Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki.
Jai.
Shri Vrindavan Dham ki.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki.
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham ki.
Jai.
Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki.
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki.
Jai.
Transcendental Book Distribution ki.
Jai.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki.
Jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Mukti Namade Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mukti Namade Namaste Nirvishesha Srimati Paschatya Deshatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayit Nastu Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, one should first offer one's respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Nara, Narayan Rishis, the supermost human beings, unto the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed, and devotional service is established within one's heart as an irrevocable fact. Good morning, devotees. Hare Krishna. We are continuing our study, first Canto, chapter 11, in terms of Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. We're on text 10, and we're also going to read text 11, but we're going to focus on text 10 today. And it's actually quite fitting in studying these pastimes of Dwarka, as today we celebrate the festival of Rath Yatra, as it's taking place in Puri, Jagannath Puri today. So there's some connection, a very, very strong connection between what we're going to read about today, about Lord Krishna and Dwarka. It's only half of the Jagannath pastime, but we will cover it. We will cover that. What a very nice connection that we have here. So let's get to it. Now, this text number, text 10, it has 2 shlokas with it, and both of those shlokas are in 2 different meters. So let's see how we do as we chant this. And just be aware of the 2 different meters. Katam vayam nata chiroshite twayi prashana drik tak shakti la tapashoshanam jive meta sundara hasa sobitam apashamana vandanam manoharam iti chodrita iti chodirita vacha prajanam bhaktavatsala shinvano nugraham dristya vitan van pravishat puram. I'll do it one more time. Katambayam nata chiroshite twai prashana drishyakila tapashoshanam jivemite sundarahasa shobhitam apashamana vandanam manoharam. Iti chodrita vacha prajana bhaktavatsala shrinvano nugraham dristya vitan van pravishat puram. In the interest of time, I'll just do it twice. So, devotees, please chant Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Katham vayam nath chiroshite tvai prasanna drashtya khilatapashoshanam jive mate sundaraha shashobhitam apaschamana vadanam manoharam iti chodarita vacha prajanam bhaktavatsalaha shunvano drashtya vitanvan pravishat puram.
Hare Krishna.
Katang vayam nata chiroshitatvai prasanna drishtya kiratapashoshanam jive mate sundarahasa shobhitam apashyamana varanam manoharam iti shodirata vacha prajanam bhaktavatsala shrinvano nugraham drishtya vitanvan pravishat puram.
Hare Krishna. Pratham vayam nath chiroshite tavai prasanna drishtya khiltapashonam jivem te sundar has shobhitam pashyamana vadanam manoharam iti chodhirati rita vachah prajanam bhaktavatsala shunyavano nigraham drishtya vitanvan pravishat puranam. Hare Krishna.
Katam vayam nada chiroshite tvai prasanna drishya kilatapasoshanam jivena te sundara hasasovitam apasyamana vadanam manoharam iti choditra vacha prajanam bhaktavatsala shinvano nugraham drishtya vitanvan pravishat puram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Katham vayam nath chiroshite tvai prasanna drishtya khiltapashoshanam jivem te sundarhas shobhitam apasyamana vadanam manoharam iti chodirita vacha रजनाम भक्त वत्सला हिरण्वानो अनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितन्वान् प्रविशत पुरम्. हरे कृष्ण.
Anyone else? Okay, move on to the synonyms. Katam, how. Vayam, we. Nata, O Lord. Chiroshite, being abroad almost always. Tvai, by you. Prashana, satisfaction. Dristya, by the glance. Akila, universal. tapa, miseries, shoshanam, vanquishing, jivema, shall be able to live, te, your, sundara, beautiful, hasa, smiling, shobitam, decorated, apashamanaha, without seeing, vandan, vadanam, face, manoharam, attractive, iti, thus, cha, and udiritaha, speaking, vachaha, words, prajanam, of the citizens, bhaktavatsalaha, kind to the devotees, shrinvanaha, thus learning, anugraham, kindness, dristya, by glances, vitanvan, distributing, pravishat, entered, puram, Dwarka Puri. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Master, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face, whose smile vanquishes all our sufferings. How can we exist without your presence? Upon hearing the speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to the citizens and the devotees, entered the city of Dwarka and acknowledged all their greetings by casting his transcendental glance over them. Purport. Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that once being attracted by him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. Why is this so? Because we are all eternally related with him, as the sun rays are eternally related with the sun disk. The sun rays are molecular parts of the solar radiation. Thus, the sun rays and the sun cannot be separated. The separation by the cloud is temporary and artificial. And as soon as the clouds are cleared, the sun rays again display their natural effulgence in the presence of the sun. Similarly, the living entities, who are molecular parts of the whole spirit, are separated from the Lord by the artificial covering of Maya, illusory energy. This illusory energy, or the curtain of Maya, has to be removed. And when it is done, the living entity can see the Lord face to face, and all of his miseries are at once removed. Every one of us wants to remove the miseries of life, but we do not know how to do it. The solution is given here, and it rests on us to assimilate it or not. So we'll read text 11 also. On Tuesday, we celebrated the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we missed a day of verses. So to stay on schedule, we'll read the second verse today. Madhuboja dasar harha kuru andaka rishnabi atmatulya baler guptam nager bhogavatim iva. Just do the translation and purport. As Bhogavati, the capital of Nagaloka, is protected by the Nagas. So was Dwarka protected by the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, Madhu, Dasahar, Arha, Kukura, Andaka, etc., who were as strong as Lord Krishna. Purport. The Nagaloka planet is situated below the Earth planet, and it is understood that the sun rays are hampered there. The darkness of the planet is, however, removed by the flashes of jewels set on the heads of the Nagas, celestial serpents. And it is said that there are beautiful gardens, rivulets, etc., for the enjoyment of the Nagas. It is understood here also that the place is well protected by the inhabitants. So the city of Dwarka was well protected by the descendants of Vrishni, who were as powerful as the Lord insofar as he manifested his strength upon this earth. O Magyanantimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umhliyatam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripasindhuvi Evacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the verse again, I'll read it real quickly. O Master, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face, whose smiles vanquish all our sufferings. How can we exist without your presence? Upon hearing their speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to the citizens and the devotees, entered the city of Dwarka and acknowledged all their greetings by casting his transcendental glance over them. As Bhogavati, the capital of Nagaloka, is protected by the Nagas, so was Dwarka protected by the descendants of Vrishni. Bhoja, Madhu, Dasarha, Arga, Kukura, Andaka, etc., who were as strong as Lord Krishna. So the title of this chapter is that Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka, and this is a very attractive pastime activity to hear about. And as we go through this chapter, we'll see all the magnificent preparations that are being made by the citizens, his family members. The common people and how they prepared their houses and their streets, their gardens, how they put out different different offerings to the Lord as he entered into Dwarka, welcoming him. And we can see as we began this chapter the different glorifications as the Lord, as he's approaching the city. And here today we have in this verse, they're basically talking to Krishna, basically saying that, we cannot stand, the time away from you was intolerable. And why was that? And he says, if you live abroad all the time, so he was away. Where was he? He was in Hastinapur. And then Before that, he was at Kurukshetra during the Battle of Kurukshetra. He's been gone for such a long time. You know, we cannot look at your attractive face. And just by seeing your attractive face, which you give your beautiful smiles, it vanquishes all our sufferings. And we cannot exist without your presence. So Krishna is so attractive that without him, you know, life becomes void. One who is attracted to Krishna, and then Krishna leaves, we see this, it becomes an unbearable amount of time. We see this also articulated by the residents of Vrindavan, perhaps in greater intensity, because their separation was even greater, and their love was on the platform of spontaneity and great intensity. This will tie into the Rath Yatra pastime, as we'll discuss a little bit later. But there's a saying, you know, time flies when you're having fun. And then also time seems to crawl when you're doing something that maybe you're not so enthusiastic about doing. Isn't it, you know, people say, oh my gosh, it took forever to get till Friday. But then what do they say about the weekend? Oh, the weekend went by in just a flash. Why? Because people don't want to be at work. People want to enjoy their life. So that on the weekends, people enjoy their life and they say it goes by in a flash. But the work week, they say, just crawls by, you know, very slowly. So we see this in the Shashastika prayers by Lord Chaitanya. And, you know, in the 7th Shashastika prayer, and Lord Chaitanya says, Yugayitam nimishena chakshusha paribap shamhitam shunyayitam jagrat sarvam govinda virahena me. It says, oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in this world in your absence. So we see here that the residents of Dwarka, they were also feeling this great separation from Lord Krishna. But unlike the residents of Hastinapur, who were now having to deal with the separation from Krishna, of his leaving, we see right after that the different emotions from the residents of Dwarka, who are now getting ready to receive Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada starts in the purport that Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that at once being attracted to him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. So why is this? Because we are eternally connected with Krishna. Our constitutional nature is that we are parts and parcels of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada uses the example of the sun rays is eternally connected to the sun disk. It cannot really be separated ever. This is our nature. And if we're to find true happiness, we have to reclaim that nature. We have to enter into that consciousness of that nature. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. And that cannot be changed. In the 7th verse of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mamayavam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashastrani indriyani prapratishtani karshati. So our sanata, our eternal relationship is Krishna conscious. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses that include the mind. So how is it then that this eternal living entity who has an eternal relationship with Krishna that can never be taken away, and can never be changed, is feeling some suffering? There's a different type of separation. That separation that we experience in this world, that is not induced by Krishna, as we see with the residents of Dwarka and the different residents of different towns and cities that Krishna visits. But it's a separation induced by our own ignorance. Unfortunately, the living entities of this world, the jivas, we wanted to leave Krishna, feeling that there is greater fulfillment elsewhere. So Krishna facilitates that by creating this world of the illusory energy. And Srila Prabhupada compares that to a cloud. He uses this example that separates the sun from the sun rays. So if you're looking down from the earth and you look up, you may not be able to see the sun. Or if you're above the clouds and you look down and the clouds are dense, you can see the sun, but you can't see the earth. So the clouds, they get in the way. But the clouds, what happens? The clouds over time, they dissipate. And Srila Prabhupada says they're temporary and artificial. They're not eternal or long-lasting. So in the same way, the Maya, this illusory condition that we're in, that can also be removed. And it must be removed if we are ever to experience what true happiness is and return to our true eternal condition. And what happens when this takes place? This is actually something very beautiful. Srila Prabhupada tells us that when this Maya is removed, he says it has to be removed. And when it is done, the living entity can see the Lord face to face, and all his miseries are at once removed. This is a very powerful statement. So it behooves us to seek and search out, how is it that this Maya, this illusion can be removed? How we can move these clouds out of our lives so that we can see Krishna directly at all times. When this happens, we'll be able to see the Lord face to face. And just like the residents of Vrindavan, of Dwarka here, they're saying, when we see your smiles, it vanquishes all our sufferings. Srila Prabhupada saying, we'll see Krishna face to face, and at once our miseries are removed. So how can this illusion be removed? Krishna is the one that ultimately, it's his energy. And due to our desire and to facilitate our desire to be separate from Krishna, Krishna puts this curtain of Maya over us. So it is also Krishna that can remove this Maya. It's actually quite powerful, too powerful for us to actually overcome. In the 14th verse of the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Daivihi yesha gunamayi, mama maya daratyaya, mam eva ye prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me, they can easily cross beyond it. So in this verse, we find the solution. surrender to Krishna. We surrender to Krishna by engaging in his devotional service. That devotional service, although in the training mode right now in this material world, is actually the eternal dharma or activity of the spirit soul. And while doing it, the joy of the spirit soul will be able to manifest within our hearts and within our lives. And thus, when we come in contact with Krishna through various means, particularly through and especially through the Lord's holy names, we actually begin to see that a lot of our miseries begin to dissipate and fall away. We have experiences of this. We know this to be true, not simply just theoretical. When we are in the presence of Krishna, we can reflect how when we chant the holy names, when we hear the Lord's instructions in the writings of the scriptures, when we're engaged in his direct service, at the temple in particular, or in other ways of spreading Krishna consciousness to others, when we're associating with his devotees, when we're associating with the deity form, isn't it that we feel a sense of joy, a sense of protection? We feel like we're back doing what is very natural for us. This is what pulls devotees closer and closer, is this reciprocation that they get from the Lord. Especially in our fragile condition, in this place of the material world where we are both in the illusion and trying to come out of the illusion, being close to Krishna, and all that is associated with Krishna that will engage us in devotional service is so important. Srila Prabhupada says that the solution is given here, and it rests upon us to assimilate it or not. That is because we all have free will. Krishna gives us that. As part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is fully independent to act and do as he wishes at all times. We also have minute independence, and that can be exercised by wanting to serve Krishna and love Krishna, or it can be used to try to find happiness elsewhere. What is within those two choices that we have? So the solution is up to us. We can continue to try to find happiness here in this material world, lifetime after lifetime. And what happens in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, after the verse that I read about that we are eternally parts and parcels of Krishna, that from body to body, lifetime after lifetime, we get another body. And then when we quit, we take another one. And then in each body, we get different instruments for sense gratification. A type of ear, an eye, a tongue, a nose, sense of touch, and a mind that right away thinks, how can I enjoy? And this goes on perpetually. Samsara, birth after birth, birth, death in one big cycle. And here we hear the solution of how do we escape this and find our eternal happiness, which is so natural for us. It is the process of performing devotional service to Krishna. By chanting the Lord's holy names alone, we can remove and dissipate the illusion of this material world. When we sincerely show, and what is dissipating? Again, it is Krishna that is dissipating. When he sees that there's some sincerity and desire to want to free ourselves, to come back to Krishna, Krishna makes the arrangements in our life. And when that begins, again, through our own experience, we can see that those problems that would consume us, they seem very minuscule. They seem very small. Krishna's presence overwhelms in the best of ways all the trivial activities that consume us in our lives. So it is up to us to assimilate this and make the wise decision to come closer and closer to Krishna. Now, as these devotees and citizens were speaking to the Lord and glorifying him as he was entering the city of Dwarka, it says here that the Lord heard them. He heard their speeches. And he acknowledged all of their greetings by casting his transcendental glance over them. So prayers to the Lord, we can understand that the Lord hears the prayers of his devotees. And there's a distinction also being made here. He is very kind to the citizens and the devotees. So the prayers that are being made, we should understand that Krishna hears our prayers. And he's acknowledging them by his transcendental glance. And a glance is a very powerful thing. Oftentimes you can understand a person's feelings towards you simply by their eye movement or their glance, especially if there is a love connection. There may not be any verbal communication, but there can be there's an understanding simply by a look or a glance. Oftentimes, just the respect of eye contact a person gives by walking into a room and you make eye contact and they can see, okay, there's some acknowledgement. There's some feeling that was exchanged simply just through the eyes. And as Lord Krishna is coming in, he's reciprocating with the devotees and citizens who have been eagerly waiting Krishna to return. By giving his transcendental glance and that beautiful smile which vanquishes all sufferings. Now this ties into the festival of Rath Yatra very nicely, which is being celebrated today in Jagannath Puri. Jagannath, along with his who's Krishna, the name of Krishna, which means Lord of the universe, along with his brother Baladev, who is Lord Krishna's first expansion, and Subhadra, who's one of his internal energies. If it memorializes this deity memorializes Krishna in Dwarka, where he displayed his unsurpassable opulence and his majesty of his Godhead. Now the deity of the Lord, he appears by his own supreme kindness to us. The process of performing devotional service is the way that we can reestablish our lost love for Krishna. But the eternal form of the Lord cannot be apprehended by our materially contaminated senses. So therefore, Krishna appears in the form of the deity. We know that God is not stone, God is not wood, God is not metal, but due to his omnipotence, he can appear in whatever form he likes, in his fullness. And he does this to accept our service, making himself available to our materially contaminated vision, so that we can use our instruments of eyes, ears, nose, sense of touch, in order to actually purify us and serve the Lord. So this is his supreme kindness to us. His compassion to bring us closer to him. At the same time, those who are not educated in spiritual culture, oftentimes they will simply see the deity form as an idol. And therefore their entrance into the temples to associate with the deity, to be able to serve the deity, becomes restricted. In order to, and even in some temples, in order to avoid this offensive mentality of just simply seeing the Lord as an idol, they've been restricted from entering, some temples. So we have this situation where the Lord, out of his intense compassion to reclaim the living entities, appears in the form of the deity. And the Jagannath deities are deities made out of wood. But Krishna, he enters into that and is non-different than himself. Receives the loving service of his devotees. But in order to give to everyone, Krishna comes outside and taken by his devotees, rides on a chariot down the street, down the road, so that he can cast his glance upon all the citizens, whether they come to see him in the temple or not. Krishna is going out to give his mercy to everyone. So this is how these two are kind of tied together. Now, there's the inner, a deep inner understanding of this pastime of Ratha Yatra, where Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, they ascend their chariots and they're being pulled by their devotees, being offered prayers, kirtan, many different types of food offerings, glorified with flowers and other different types of articles that are offered to them. As we were speaking about this position of separation that one experiences from the Lord. Krishna, when he was, he spent his youth in Vrindavan. And while he was in Vrindavan, the residents of Vrindavan were just so attracted to Krishna. But they were attracted to him in a different way than what we see from the citizens of Dwarka. Our eternal nature is as eternal servants of the Lord. So therefore, serving the Lord, seeing him as the most opulent, as the king, as the Lord and Master, is very natural. In fact, to see him as anything else, you would often, you could conclude that it is an illusion. We are servants, he is the master. That is the conclusion that is given in the scriptures. But there's a limitation, as Lord Chaitanya has taught. And although it is a very elevated understanding of reverential devotion, by its nature, it is limited in intimacy, intensity, as well as spontaneity. In order to experience that with his devotees, Krishna covers his devotees with a type of an illusion. This is called Yogamaya. Different than the illusion we talked about that we experience here in this world, like the cloud that covers our relationship. This illusion, this Yogamaya, actually intensifies our devotion and allows one to interact with Krishna and Krishna to interact with his devotees on a level of spontaneity, where they actually don't know that Krishna is God. They just love Krishna because he's the most beloved. They see him as a friend. They see him as a sibling, a brother. They see him as a son. They see him as a youthful love. But Krishna allows these relationships to take place under the covering of his Yogamaya. When Krishna left Vrindavan and ultimately went to Dwarka, because Krishna, he had his different purposes when he came to this world: annihilate the miscreants, reestablish the principles of religion. So Krishna went out and he killed many demons. He had the battle of Kurukshetra that was being was orchestrated and had to be executed. So all these activities, the residents of Vrindavan, they were feeling that great loss of separation from Krishna. When will Krishna return? When will we see him again? In fact, that prayer that we sung from the Shashastakam, Govinda Virahena Me, that this intense separation, this was the feelings of the residents of Vrindavan, especially from Krishna's topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani. One day during a solar eclipse, when Krishna was in Dwarka, they went to observe that in the holy place of Kurukshetra, the same place where the battle was, took place. And hearing about this, the residents of Vrindavan, they thought, this is an opportunity for us to go on pilgrimage and actually get a chance to visit Krishna. And as Krishna set off for Kurukshetra, coming from Dwarka, he had his entourage, the elephants, horse-drawn chariots, so many soldiers and people accompanying him, a huge assembly of people, all decked out in the most regal and royal attire. And here come the residents of Vrindavan on their bullock carts, very simple agrarian culture built on farming and cow protection. And when Srimati Radharani saw Krishna standing over there with his crown, golden crown, and he had all these ornaments on him, and he was being fanned, and he was being, surrounded by so many people and so much, so much royalty. She said, that is not the Krishna that I know. That is not the Krishna that I yearn to see. And she got so in that, her separation grew deeper and deeper. Have I lost Krishna altogether? Who is Krishna become? Because that is not my Krishna. So when the residents of Vrindavan got a chance to actually come together and meet Krishna, they understood that we can't let Krishna go. We have to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. We can't return without him. But at the same time, they knew he had to return to Dwarka. So there was this internal struggle that was going on, that they were so happy to see Krishna, but yet they knew that Krishna would not be able to come back with them. But they had this intense desire to bring Krishna back with them. And this Rath Yatra ceremony commemorates this loving pastime, experienced as Vipralamba, service and separation, experienced by Srimati Radharani. Separation in this way intensifies our love for Krishna. Because in separation, two things can happen. One is disinterest. If there's separation, sometimes disinterest occurs. And when there's disinterest, one finds another object to love. But when one's love is deeply rooted, even separation, won't cause one to love another. In fact, it will intensify that love. It will consume one. All one can think about is one's beloved. Our separation is different than that. Our separation was due to, we think that there is, the grass is greener on the other side, that there is greater happiness outside of Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan, their separation, was induced to increase their loving feelings toward Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna is deepening it and deepening it. And this Rath Yatra ceremony, starting in Dwarka, starting in Jagannath Puri, the temple of Jagannath Puri, which is very grand and very huge. Lord Jagannath is carried out of the temple, placed on the chariot, and is pulled. The chariot is pulled down and is pulled to a smaller temple outside of the main city, in more of a rural area, and that is called Gundicha, and that represents Vrindavan. And the heart, the internal pastime of trying to return Krishna to Vrindavan is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. That was experienced by Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. And he says, it's not an incarnation of Krishna, it's Krishna himself. Krishna coming with two main purposes. One, he wanted to taste this feeling of intense love that Radharani had for him. He wanted to understand the quality of her love. What is she feeling? What was she feeling, when she wanted to bring Krishna back home? When she wanted to have her cowherd boy return. And that her love never diminished, but only increased. He wanted to experience that. At the same time, in the most compassionate way, he wanted to make himself accessible to everyone and distribute this love of God. So he came in the form of his devotee. to both experience service to Krishna and as well as be the ideal executor of such service. And as he came to as he danced at Rath Yatra, he experienced these transcendental ecstasies. His body transformed in different ways. He got goosebumps all over his body. Tears poured out of his eyes. His mouth would go. He would utter words that would be unrecognizable. And people are thinking, what is happening to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? But he was going into these ecstatic experiences. All these symptoms were being witnessed by his devotees. And Swarup Damodar, a very confidential associate of Lord Chaitanya, who could understand Lord Chaitanya's inner mood, he would pacify him, and he would sing songs that one could, if unknowingly, they could think are actually mundane, but he actually brought the Lord. He was feeding the Lord what he was desiring to hear, because he understood the Lord was in this particular mood. And he would say that very person who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlight nights in the month of Chaitra. That same fragrance of Malati flowers is there in our intimate relationship. I am the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I'm eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vetsai tree. That is my desire. So that was spoken by Srimati Radharani at Kurukshetra when they met. And Swarup Damodar is now singing that to Lord Chaitanya in Rath Yatra. So this Rath Yatra is a very important festival. Srila Prabhupada, from a very early age, took part in this Rath Yatra, making homemade Rath Yatra carts, and taking his Rath Yatra cart around, inspiring people at such a young age to worship Lord Krishna and appreciate this pastime. From the beginning of ISKCON, he promoted and encouraged the devotees to perform Rath Yatras. And therefore, in all the major cities of this world and many towns and villages of this world, this Rath Yatra festival is present. In Philadelphia, we take great pride in organizing and putting on this Rath Yatra festival for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath, to engage the devotees and allow Lord Jagannath to cast his auspicious glance upon all the citizens of the city of Philadelphia. Why? Because we know that in the presence of Lord Jagannath, all our miseries can be vanquished, and we can return to our eternal nature of loving servants of Krishna. This is an opportunity to establish and experience our love for Krishna. So today is the day where Rath Yatra takes place in Jagannath Puri, and some temples, they observe the actual Rath Yatra on this particular day. But this Rath Yatra can actually be performed throughout the year and at all times. And so ours is on September 24th. It's always the fourth Saturday of September. And we just went to New York Rath Yatra this weekend. Before that, there was a Baltimore Rath Yatra. This weekend, there's Rath Yatras in 3 different local places that I know of: in Atlantic City, up in Parsippany, New Jersey, as well as in Bear, Delaware. So many opportunities for us to experience the ecstasy of chanting in front of Lord Jagannath, receiving his causeless mercy of being able to serve him, being able to smile upon us, and encourage everyone to take full advantage of this opportunity. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts, questions, comments about today's verse or this pastime?
Very nice class, Prabhu, and very nice reference to the Jagannath Rath Yatra and the Dwarka Leela, both. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kaivalya Prabhu. I was thinking, and when we were talking about separation and how, like, you can, you even with devotees, you in this morning sangha, we miss, even if you're going a couple of days, we feel your presence is missed. You, as well as Mother Vinjavali has been gone for some time. You went away for a couple of days, but still it felt like, wow, Kaivalya Prabhu has been gone. We're missing his association. Mother Vinjavali is gone. We're missing her association. And I know you'll be going away to India soon as well. So again, we'll be missing you.
I'm planning to go, Prabhu, in the Swar party on that September, October.
Anything else? Anything anybody would like to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It's just a coincidence that we've been reading in the evening Chaitanya Charitamrita, the confidential reasons for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. In the past few days, we were reading about the gopis and their mode of serving Krishna, and so it just kind of resonated with what you were speaking today in class. So just appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's nice how it all ties together like that. It helps fix our consciousness even more.
Yes, Prabhu.
It's real and fresh in our minds. Krishna seems to make these arrangements very nicely.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
Even where we are in Bhagavatam with Krishna entering into Dwarka, it helps feed that, feed this pastime. Okay, there's nothing else. We can conclude here. Maybe we can end with just a little Jagannath Kirtan, just so we can enter into that consciousness of Rath Yatra today. Also want to just mention as we end that tonight is Srila Prabhupada Leela night, 7 o'clock on the same Zoom channel. So please tune in to hear about the transcendental activities of Srila Prabhupada in establishing ISKCON and spreading the Hare Krishna movement throughout the world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. You can sing also. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jai Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra.
Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra.
Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me.
Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Ji Jagannath Swami ki
Jai,
Ji Baladev Srimati Subhadra Maharani ki
Jai,
Shri Rath Yatra Mahotsava ki
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.